Welcome to a new broadcast of the Terror Crypt. Make yourselves comfortable. If you're in your room, turn off the lights. If you're driving down a lonely highway, turn up the volume a bit, but don't stop looking at the rearview mirror. Sometimes what comes with us isn't always human. Today, I'm not bringing you a legend told to scare children. Today we're opening a real-life file. A case of cruelty and despair that remained impregnated in the pink stone of Morelia, Michoacán. Many of you have written to me asking about the hand of the Grille. They say they've walked down that street and felt a cold that isn't of this world. Get ready, because what you're about to hear is the testimony of an agony that refuses to die. To understand the horror, we must travel to the past, to the old Valladolid. Imagine cobblestone streets, long shadows cast by oil lamps, and manor houses with walls so thick they could hide any scream. In one of those houses lived Don Juan Núñez de Castro. He was a respected man, but he made a fatal mistake, marrying for a second time a woman named Dona Margarita de Estrada. Don Juan had a daughter from his first marriage, Leonor. Leonor was the light of that house. Young, beautiful, full of life. But for Margarita, Leonor was a constant reminder of her own envy. The stepmother did not love her. She hated her with a silent intensity that only grows in rotten hearts. When Don Juan had to leave the city for business, Margarita saw her chance. Under the pretext that Leonor was getting into trouble or needed to be corrected in her faith, she locked her up. But it wasn't a confinement in a bedroom with a bed and warmth. She threw her into the basement of the house. A damp, dark place, where the only contact with the outside world was a small window at ground level, protected by forged iron bars that faced a lonely alley. But fate is fickle. A young officer, Don Manrique de la Serna, passed through that alley every night. One day he saw bright eyes behind the floor grill. He heard a broken voice pleading for help, but it ended up making him fall in love. For weeks, Manrique would kneel in the mud of the alley to talk to Leonor. They promised each other eternal love through those bars. He would sneak her food, letters, hope, but the real horror was about to be unleashed. Margarita discovered them. Instead of freeing the girl or confronting the officer, Margarita decided the punishment would be absolute oblivion. She blocked the basement door with heavy furniture. She forbade the servants from approaching. She gave the order that no one, under penalty of social death, was to give the girl a single bite of bread or a drop of water. This is where the story turns dark, friends of the crypt. Imagine spending days in total darkness. Hunger isn't like what we feel. It's a pain that bites your insides, that blurs your vision. Leonor, desperate, used her last strength to crawl to the alley's grill. She no longer had a voice to scream. She could only stick her hand out. A hand that began to turn pale, then yellowish, and finally skeletal. The people passing through the alley at dawn saw that hand coming out from between the bars. The fingers moved weakly, scratching the ground, pleading for a bit of mercy. But those were times of great superstition. Instead of helping, people crossed the street. They said it was a hand from purgatory, that it was a trap from the devil. No one gave her water. No one gave her bread. When Don Juan returned from his trip weeks later, he noticed a strange smell in the house. A smell of dampness and of something slowly decomposing. When he asked his wife about Leonor, she simply told him the young woman had run away with a lover. But that night Don Juan couldn't sleep. He heard a sound coming from below. As if someone were hitting the stone with a bone. He went down to the alley with an oil lamp. The light illuminated the ground and his heart stopped. There was his daughter's hand, trapped between the bars, stiff cold. Leonor had died of hunger and thirst, with her hand extended toward a world that left her to die. We might say, well, that happened a long time ago. But in the Terror Crypt we look for what transcends time. The house is still there in Morelia, and the testimonies haven't stopped since the 18th century up to this very year, 2026. The security guards of nearby buildings avoid walking on that sidewalk after 3 in the morning. There are reports of people who, distracted by their phones, feel something touch their ankle. When they look down, there's nothing, but it leaves a mark on the skin. 5 white fingers of pure cold. Others claim to have heard a whisper rising from the sewers, a voice that has no lungs but sounds clear in the silence of the night. A little water. Just a little water. It is even said that if you leave a piece of bread near that grill and walk away, when you return the bread has disappeared, but there is no sign of animals. The most terrifying thing isn't the ghost, friends. The most terrifying thing is knowing that this hand belonged to a person of flesh and bone who suffered the unspeakable while the world went on just a few inches away from her. What would you do if, while passing through a dark alley, you saw a hand coming out of the ground? Would you stop to help? Or would you run away like the people of that time did? Leave it for me in the comments. I'm very interested in reading if any of you have visited Morelia and felt that presence in the alley of the hand of the Grille. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell because in this crypt, there's always an empty spot for one more of you. I am your host in the Terror Crypt and I hope that tonight, you can get some sleep. They let you.